Hello everyone. Just wanted to say hi and introduce myself. My name is Marshall. I'm currently at my off-grid property in the BC interior mountains, one of the valleys up there. Don't want to really say where specifically, just because it's a pretty remote area and the people that are up here, kind of like myself, we just kind of want to be left alone, and don't want a lot of people just kind of traipsing through. In the process of redoing the cabin here, it was on the property. It's somewhere, the cabin's probably mid-30s. There's writing on the inside, so I think it was down near the lake, and people were working in there, and then got pulled up here in the 70s, I guess, from the person I bought the property from, and he had his wife and a couple of kids here, and I love it. I mean, you know, it's one of the best places, in my mind, on Earth. Originally from Missouri Ozarks, so this feels very much like home, even though it's a lot more rugged. We have a lot of animals around here. I just pulled in one of my jerry cans that was stashed out to recycle the fluid, and something chewed on the handles. It's a real heavy one, so pretty sure it's the bear that comes through here. It's already, you know, wrecked a little bit of havoc around. A lot of bears, a lot of moose, elk, deer, bobcat, lynx, cougars, mountain lions, depending on whatever you want to call it. Along with that, do want to kind of recount some stories that I've had over the years. Probably going back to the 1970s, mid-70s. Dad had taken me and the family deer hunting with him near Gainesville, Missouri. We had access to about 400 acres private property there. Had an old cabin, different than this, but it was an old log cabin, and so we got in there, spent the night. And I say spent the night, it was a very interesting night, because somewhere around 1 in the morning, suddenly rocks were hitting, or something was hitting the side of the cabin. You know, so kind of freaked Dad out a little bit. Dad, you know, got up, shining his flashlight out through the window, because it actually didn't have windows in it. It had a window in the door, so he was trying to look out there and see. Never figured out exactly what it was, but I know Dad, we didn't go back to that area for about 4 years to hunt. And even when we did, we came in the back side of the property in our truck and camper, and we stayed back up in that area. And we would hunt back over here, but Dad never really wanted to get into the cabin area. He'd go in during the day, but that was about it. So, you know, now we're later in the 70s, and I'm... hello, Lucy. Basically in a tree stand that ends up being, I mean, as the crow flies from the old cabin, it's up on the ridge. The cabin's down here, the ridge is up there. There's a field kind of on the back side of that. And was up there, was hunting, and, you know, first morning, didn't really see anything. When I actually got there was another hunter who was hunting the property next to us in my stand, so he got down and went on down further down the field. I don't know, about 9:30, 10 o'clock, you know, bam, he fired down there, and sure enough, he got a nice buck that opening day. So I didn't get anything that day. So next day came back on Sunday, got up in the tree stand there again. For me, it was somewhere around 10 o'clock or so, and I could see the you know, the field. When I say field, you know, it had been logged at some point in time, so it was mainly about 5 foot of oak regrowth, because, you know, it was about this high. I just remember because I was in the field the next weekend, but I saw something run down along the tree line, and it was moving fast, really fast. And it was kind of a little bit of a reddish brown color. Was moving, and I got back to camp, here again, I'm 15. You know, I tell the other people there, and they all kind of, the adults, so to speak, says, "Oh, it's just a bear or something." And it's like, you know, I didn't question it. I mean, at that age, you don't really question a lot of things. Sometimes you do, but you don't. And even though I said to them, I said, well, I didn't think there were that many bears in Missouri down in the Ozarks at that particular time, and there wasn't. Next weekend, back hunting. I shot an 8-point buck out of the same tree stand. So there, got down into the field, and when I got down to the field, you know, I realized there again that it's, you know, I'm 5'6". This stuff was about this high, so whatever I'd seen was at least 2 feet higher than that. So it was potentially about 7 feet tall. Because when I walked down to that ridge line, or that timber line, it made a difference. Like I said, you could see that there was quite a bit of difference height-wise as far as what that stuff would have been blocking. So it would have to be something pretty tall. So that was kind of my early experiences. Didn't really know what it was. Didn't think about it being Sasquatch. Didn't think about it being Momo, Bigfoot, any of that type of stuff, because you know, I wasn't really on board and didn't really know that much about that type of stuff. Fast forward, so went to university, stopped hunting for a long period of time, moved to St. Louis for a while, then moved to San Francisco, and basically would go out in the outdoors, didn't do a whole lot, got interested in fly fishing, and so that meant, you know, going into some remote areas, and mainly in Idaho and Montana and stuff like that, but no experiences there. So my buddy and I, we had planned a salmon trip up on the Trinity River, which is kind of where, when we got to talking to a river guide, it's only about maybe 30 miles as the crow fly from the famous footage, as we know. So pretty close to that area. There was a situation, we were staying in the cabin that night, and I had to go out about 11 o'clock to get something out of my car. And so I come walking out, and, you know, for anybody who spends any time in the woods, they really know you have a sixth sense with that type of stuff. The heckles come up. That started happening, you know, so, I mean, I kind of knew something was around. I had a flashlight, and I joke at the time, it was one of those big million-power, you know, million-watt candle, you know, flashlight. So I pull that thing out and shine it around, you know, don't see anything, you know, hackles go down, get back in. And like I said, I was telling the guide about it the next day, and he mentioned that, well, you're in kind of Bigfoot Alley up in that area, in that whole area, Mendocino Coast, Fort Bragg. Got some family there. So that was that particular case. I moved to, you know, there's been a few other little incidents through, but nothing really substantial until I moved to British Columbia. And up here, I've had numerous encounters. Mainly it's been wood knocks or rock slams. So from the property where I am right now, about 2 or 3 kilometers up the road, there's a lake up there that is lakes here, roads here, rivers here, kind of steep drop off. I call it the pinch point. A lot of stuff moves through that area. You know, so I've had, you know, cameras up there, and what normally happens is there's a little bush range that we got set up, and we shoot our 22s and our shotguns and stuff like that. And so we've been doing that, and I told my buddy, I said, hey, Keegan, I said, hey, Keegan, I want to go put a camera back over by that lake. And he goes, what lake? I said, well, there's a lake over there. You know, the lake we see from, if we go up on top where we shoot, we can see down there. It's like, okay, sure, let's go. So we go down, we get down there. So I'm in, and there's like, you know, the road's here, you know, maybe from the road to the lake, even though it's really brushy and it's down an embankment, you can't really see it from the road except in the wintertime. I came in, and there's a huge game trail like running through here, heavily used. Of course, it's a pinch point. Lake here, road here. This is the corridor where everybody's going to be traveling. You know, it makes common sense. So, put up at the trail camera there. I'm clearing some brush out over here. My buddy Keegan, he goes over to the lake, and he's starting to take a piss, you know, and into the lake. And all of a sudden, off to our left, we hear a quack. And when I say quack, it was like if you took a baseball bat, seasoned baseball bat, and hit another tree, or you hit something with it, it was that sharp a crack. So it wasn't like of a tree falling. I've heard all that. I've got trees falling all the time on my property here. I've got 23 acres here. So I'm used to hearing those sounds, natural sounds. This just was not natural. So of course that interrupted his, say, kind of pius interruptus. You know, it's like, oh, what was that? You know, because our shotguns were in the car. We just walked down there, didn't do anything about that, and so we. Oh, come on, you guys. Sorry, neighbor's dog's going crazy. So we said, let's get out of here. I said, I got the camera. Let's see if we get anything on it. Didn't really get anything specifically other than a few kind of weird, kind of a ghosty floating apparition type thing. I can post that photo for you guys to look at. Don't really know what it is. So then the next year, and that was what we call the May long weekend, which is essentially like the States is Memorial Day, but it's I think Victoria Day for us. I'm still learning. I'm still a new Canadian, Can-American, as they say. Nothing on that. The next year, similar thing. It was the May long weekend. We went shooting and came back to check the camera. This time there were 3 of us. So Keegan and MSK went down to the lake. And when I say the lake, I mean it's only about maybe 10 yards from where my camera is, so it's not that far away. They're there. I checked that, changed the batteries, pulled the card, replaced the card, and then I basically walk down, and standing next to us, the 3 of us. And this time we're talking for just maybe like 2 minutes and talking about the lake, and then all of a sudden, bam! Over on this side, it was what we call, to me, it sounded like a rock slam. It was something that was just so heavy that it just boom came down. The soil we were on around the lake was a little squishy, and I mean it actually vibrated. So wherever it was, kind of came through there. I mean, there's some speculation that when a moose is scared, that they can kick off with a lot of weight, and I know there's a lot of moose in there, but I really don't know that was the case, because we didn't hear any brush, didn't see any movement, anything other than that. And of course, there again, we just kind of evacuated out of there. So that's kind of what's happened in that one location. The other thing that happened there was later in the year, in 2017, I had an LEH for a moose hunt in November. So I went in there and sat for a while, and then went around to the other part of the lake and did a moose call out across the lake, thinking it would carry pretty far. And then did that, and about 20 seconds after I did that, I hear a whack, whack from the far side of the lake. It wasn't a violent whack. It was very, it was a subtler. It wasn't the violent, the one that we had before that was like a warning. This was almost just like a form of communication. I don't know. Maybe my moose call is so bad that it's a Sasquatch call. I don't know. But it was, that was kind of interesting there. Another place up here is a place called Loon Lake, and it's still in the interior mountains. We were staying at the campground there, the White Moose Lodge, I think it is. And we hunting about an hour and a half back off the Forest Service roads. We would see maybe 1 or 2 vehicles the whole weekend up there, so not really anybody up there. I shot a grouse. My buddy, who's in his 70s, he got out, and we got back to camp. We couldn't find his magazine, so we thought maybe it just had fallen out there. So the next day, it's like, okay, well, let's just go back that area and see if your magazine fell out, So we get back there. The grouse, I skinned it out, to basically take the breasts and stuff, left everything else behind, and it was kind of down here on the ground. When we get back, it's like everything was up higher, like all of the feathers were like on the bushes that were surrounded us, that was in this area here at this height, which is a little strange because the grouse is normally on the ground, but yet the feathers are spread over a brush that's about this high. Didn't think much of it. So I told Hank, I said, well, he's looking there. I said, well, you know, there's this little opening up here, this clearing. I said, I want to go up and just, you know, test my 22, because it was new. It was a 22 410 over under, and I hadn't really sighted it in. And the day before, when I shot the grouse, I shot right over its head, and it ducked down, and so then I got it with the 410. But I said, well, let's just see where the 22 is. Let me sight it in. So we went up there. You know, it's about 20 yards up, further up the road. I put up a little target backdrop, you know, and you know, it's a single shot, so it's like pop. You know, okay, and pop. Okay, so there's two, and it was about this cadence. It was about bam, bam, and then off in the woods, I hear whack, whack, and about that speed. So people say, oh, it's just a ricochet. It's like, yeah, I can't ricochet, can't speed up time there. You know, it's not going to change. So there's that case too. I turned around to Hank and I'm like, what do you think that was? And he's been in the woods, you know, up here for 35 years or so. And he was kind of just shrugged his shoulders. He said, I don't know what it was. He still doesn't know what it was to this day. Nor do I. But it's like, so I've heard multiple wood knocks and the slams, but I've not heard any vocalizations, except had a First Nation guide who took us out salmon fishing down by where the Harrison River meets the Fraser River. And actually, interestingly enough, not too far from where there's a place called the Sasquatch Inn. The Salish people, I think, the First Nations that are in that area, they're actually the ones who kind of coined the term Sasquatch. If you see it in their native language, that's exactly kind of what it is, Sasquatch. But we've been salmon fishing for some time. The guide was fishing, me, my buddy, and all of a sudden we hear this noise across the river. And our First Nation guide, he just dropped his rod and reel right into the river. Didn't back up and do anything. He just dropped it, turned, and just ran to his boat, got his binoculars, and came back and brought him up and just started glassing the far shore as much as he could. He was just like doing this. And I'm like, hey, so, you know, what do you think that is? And he's like, well, let's see. I think it's maybe a wild boar. I'm like, okay, wild boar. Well, I hunted those in California, and they don't quite sound like that. And he just kind of got a little cagey at that point, so I didn't really want to push him much. So I kind of let it go until later in the day, once we got to know each other a little bit better, and I just was kind of talking about some of the stuff that had happened to me over time. And he, you know, and I just said, well, have you had any cases, any incidents of anything up here? And he said, well, he hasn't, but his uncle was basically was a trapper up, I think on the West Harrison Lake area, and said that he's had some encounters and stuff that he doesn't really want to talk about. He just prefers not to say really much about what was going on. So, and you know, I can understand that. I mean, you know, me coming forward and talking about stuff, I mean, other than the Missouri incident, you know, seeing something, you know, I haven't seen it, so I'm not saying that they're not there or that they are there. There's just something there that Ocho, that makes me just kind of question a lot of things, and so I definitely want to basically, sorry about that. Ocho's a young little lady. She's a rescue from Mexico, so but she speaks English now, so that's good. And the other dog, Lucy here, she's a rescue from I think she might have been somewhere in the Middle East. But good dogs, good dogs for up here. Anyway, there's just been like I said, for me, there's been a lot of cases of stuff going on. So what our plan is, Keegan and I, yesterday we just took a little preliminary trek up by what we call Woodknock Lake. Kind of went in through there after I changed the trail cameras, and I haven't checked the footage on that, so we'll see if I get anything from the winter. But we came back, did a big loop all the way around there. A lot of moose sign. We actually came across a moose kill. So something had killed it in really thick brush, really thick. We just found the jawbone and I guess the scapula is the back. That's the only portions of the animal we still saw. We did, interestingly enough, down by the lake, we did see a rib down there. So something must have drug it quite a ways away. I shot some footage of that. We saw some footprints along the lake that are a little interesting. My buddy, Keegan, he's like 6'1". He tried to match the stride of what we saw, and he couldn't. He had to really kick out, and he still couldn't reach that far. They were about yay big. Definitely not boots, and they were definitely kind of sunk in. And it wasn't like there were moose prints around, so the moose we could see like that or drags into it. But this was a longer thing that came in down along the shore and then back around. So we'll get that video put together. But anyway, we're going to go out and spend a few more of those trips and see what we can come across with doing overnight. Kind of heading up the other valley, which what I've been told is at the other end of this valley there's been vocalizations up there. I think for me it seems like most of the time that we have action here is in the spring. So whatever is here is coming in. And then also a little bit, because I had a trail camera 50 kilometers up north of here for the moose season, that I got something on that still don't quite know what it is. I mean, some people say it's a bear, but when I come up to the camera was about yay height, and whatever it was higher than that, and then there was a little piece of hair up here. So I have a hard time thinking it's a bear, especially because it's really uneven ground to walk around on, and it's really kind of hard to say what that is. But that same up area has wolverines up in there. Go up a little further and you're in grizzly country, so this is pretty remote area. But yeah, Keegan and I are just going to do that trek and see what we can find. I know this is kind of a long conversation here, and I might end up kind of cutting it into some pieces, so you don't have to listen to me the whole time. But this is kind of my property, and I basically just ended up putting the new foundation on this thing here, and so you get an idea what this property's like. It's pretty thick and pretty crazy. So anyway, thanks for listening, and guys, have a great day. And as we find more and more stuff, we'll send it your way. There's Lucy. You guys take care. Thanks. Bye bye.